Hello, everybody. Thanks for being with us today. Glad to have you for an extra webinar this month. I thought maybe it would be May before they came out with the new version again like last year, but came out a little bit early. So we squeezed in another one. It's been a trying few days technology-wise. I had a glitch in the website on Saturday, and then I had been working on the notes on Thursday, and then Thursday night I was doing a session. I went to click on Nick 9 and wouldn't take my license code. So apparently all of the codes they had in the beta for us affiliates did not carry over to the release, so they had to redo them all, and luckily I got mine yesterday so I could finish the notes and test everything. So it's been a process. So I have one other important note before we start, and that is, this is our 50th webinar! Yay! I've been doing this since March of 2020, and I'm excited that we've gotten to 50 of these, and they are all still on my YouTube channel that you can go back to. So that's my big yay for today. So you said congrats and keep them coming. I plan to. So with that, I'm going to switch over, and we're just going to quickly go over, and this is in what I've been posting in the blog and newsletter as well, but just to let you know what we're going to cover and what's new. One of the cool things they have now are depth masks. So they keep expanding on the ways we can make selections. So initially it was just the control points, and then we had different kinds of control points, and now we've got all kinds of good ways of selecting things to make it quicker and easier and more accurate. Depth masks, they target the adjustments based on the distance with intuitive depth mapping. And we have AI masks for, they call it fast pixel precise subject selection for complex edits. And that also lets us select by the subject, which makes it really cool. We now have color grading, and I actually like this a lot better than the ones in Photoshop and Lightroom, because it's all in one little circle instead of 3 different ones, and I think it makes it a little bit easier to kind of understand it all. Then we have chromatic shift, which is something you'll see in some like advertising and movie type things. And then we have some glass effects, so you can have your image look like it was shot behind all kinds of different glass effects. And then there's also halation, which I had to look up what that was actually, what it means. And it's another cinematic effect, and it works really well with like a bright areas, like if you had street lights or like lights from a car or something. It adds like a specific glow. So I'm going to show you kind of that way of using it, and also I'm going to show you a way that I tried that I thought was pretty cool. So, and we also, this is exciting for me and for all of us who like to blend our textures and things. In version 8, they introduced paper textures. Well, now you can also change the blending mode of those paper textures, which you could not do before. So that's pretty exciting. And then there's some other basic workflow improvements. You can see when you hover over an effect, you can see it live in the workspace. And then, like I said, more local adjustment tools. So that is all some really cool stuff. So let's jump in, and I'm going to close that and reduce that and go to Photoshop. All right. Oh, Bill Zombeck said he has all of my notes from webinar 1 until now. Well, thank you, Bill. That's pretty cool. I know there's probably a few people on here I know that have all of them that have been watching for a very long time, and I really do appreciate that. That's what helps us keep doing these too. The price of Zoom keeps going up, and hosting YouTube, and all these weird things. But the website stuff, it's crazy. But it's part of what we do. All right. So this is an older image that I have that I've used to use I still use in my basic Photoshop seminar on how to make selections, because I wanted to blur the trees just a little bit more in this image. So I show people how to make different selections and do that. But we're going to do this now in Nik. So I have my Nik panel docked over here. This is my Nik 8 and my Nik 9. And the way you can do that, you access it through the plugins panel. And if you go to Nik 9 and go to Preferences, it will open up this panel. And then all you do is grab where the word Preferences is and drag it over to get like a blue square over here. And then that will dock it here. So you can just click on it right from here instead of having to go up to plugins all the time. All right, so we're going to start. Most of these changes are in color effects and analog effects. So that's mostly what we're using today. Oh God, this was just working this afternoon. Don't tell me that this is not going to work now. Hold, please. I got to go find my... Well, see if yours works. Yours is getting this... Oh, they've got a problem again. Oh, man. I was just working with this morning, and it was fine. Oh, crap. Hold, please. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. Is this my new license? No, is that the new one? Yeah, that's from yesterday. Today. Lordy. Well, this is not good. No, I don't want to buy it. I know. Click the wrong button. Oh, let's hope it worked. Looks like it worked. I just had to put it back in. Phew. All right. I think we're okay. Yeah, I've got it copied now. So, oh, Lordy. Heart attack number 9. All right. So, ring color effects.
Live TV.
Yeah. We're going to go to classical soft focus. And what I want to do is use the new depth map on our background. So before we used to have the little buttons like here for under local adjustments, it would be the control point and control polygon and all that. So now if we click this add local adjustment, we get a whole list of all of the ways we can make selections. So we still have our control point, control line, and polygon. We can select by luminosity mask, color masks, and now the new depth mask. And we also have the object and area selection. So for this one, I'm going to do a depth mask. Did I click? Is it not selecting it? Okay, I guess it's there. It's highlighted. So let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay. Phew. All right. I got to get my my head working here. So as you can see, as I'm moving, I'm just sliding my cursor. I'm not clicking anything. And you can see where it's selecting. So I'm going to go with where it selects the most, because some of those leaves on the left and these ones right next to my cursor really are a little more forward. And then we can touch it up a little more with the far background ones. So I'm just going to click once in this area to establish that mask. And then we're going to come over here to our adjustments. And I want to use method number 2. And I'm going to use diffuse the detail. So I want to soften the details of that, soften the outlines. Like I don't want to sharpen things. I want to diffuse them. And then I'm going to bring over the strength of this filter a little bit more. So if I turn that off, you can see the before and the after. Okay. And then I decided, all right, so let's look at the rest. So if you want to see what you're masking besides just when you hover over it, you see this little icon down here, that's showing me the options. If you just hit the letter M, like many, on your keyboard, it will cycle through no mask, or it will show you a black and white version of your mask. So you can see exactly what we just, where it's white is where we applied that change. So it's actually, yeah, it's not really opposite of a mask. When you look at it in black and white, it makes sense because we're not applying the change where it's black, it's only where it's white. When it's red, it seems like it's the opposite, right? Like we're masking that area, but that's actually where we're applying that change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this depth mask. Actually, I didn't do that in my notes. But if you wanted to like pick up these other parts here, and these are already pretty blurred, so I'm really not too worried. And like I said, these are more forward. So I think we're okay on that background. But then what I want to do is I want to sharpen up my cubs a little. So I'm going to go over here and add the clear view filter. And so I'm going to hit the plus sign. And in this one, we're going to go down here and I'm going to click on object selection. And I'm going to click, it's actually going to be easier because if I go over the cubs, I've got to select them all one at a time. So if I select the background and then invert that selection, so we are on object mask number 1, this little icon with the like black and white square, if you hover over it, tells you that will invert the selection. So now if I click that and I go to I'll cycle through, you can see that we've masked out the background because we inverted it. So let's go back to normal. And so under, where am I? Clear view. I'm going to up the intensity. So right now it's at 0, so it's not doing anything. So I'm just going to go up to about there. And you can see exactly, what it's done now. It's sharpened up those cubs a little bit. Virginia said they don't have a select subject. Yes, that's what I just did here. So if we go into add again, they call it object selection, but that's the same thing as select subject. And I think in the notes I put select subject, but that's actually what it is there. Okay. So I'm just going to apply it. You can, like they introduced in the last version, apply it as a smart object so you can come back in. But for now, I don't need to do that because I've got lots of projects and things I'm going to show you. So we're just going to go through them quickly and not spend time on that. So you can see here is our before and the after. So we've softened the background a little bit more and sharpened up the cubs. Yes, and Dave just put in theirs. I know some of you already got the notes today, but if you didn't, they are available for this webinar and for the next one. That's in 2 weeks. All right, so I'm not going to save this because I already have it saved, but if you wanted to save your layers, of course, file save as and save it as a TIFF or a PSD. All right, so next up, I'm going to do a couple shots from our Outer Banks trip a few weeks ago for our anniversary. We on our way, we saw this old building and then we decided to take some side roads and found a couple other cool buildings. So again, I'm going to go in here, go to my color effects. Oh, good. I didn't need the license again. I'm going to start by using the clear view filter. And I want to just apply this to the building. So I'm going to click on the local adjustment, object selection, and select my building. Now, if you go over like a really dark area like that, it might only select that. So I'm kind of selecting here. So I'm getting all of that building. And then I'm going to raise the intensity. to about 67. Just really add some more drama and detail to that. And then just to show you what you can do, it's probably not something I would actually do on an image, but I'm going to make the background black and white. So rather than going to silver effects, I'm going to use the black and white conversion filter, add that. And again, we're going to do a local adjustment, object selection. And I'm going to, again, select the building, and then I'm going to invert that. So we're just going to click that little button. So now our background is what we're going to apply this to. So only that is black and white. The building still has that little bit of color. And then we'll come in here and make our adjustments. So our strength, I'm going to bring down a little bit. And brightness, we're going to bring up a little. Add some contrast or a little bit more contrast. And then shadows and highlights. Okay. Linda Harris, who's on, said we found more than her AI trip. Her and a couple other people did a trip to the Outer Banks like the week before we were there, and AI planned out all their routes. And yeah, we went off and I did some research, but these we just kind of just found, which was fun. Okay, yeah, Debbie said, how do you update the box on the Photoshop listing all the Nick options? Let me just apply this first. I'm not sure which box you mean. Do you mean the one that used to show up like in the corner? Because that went away with Nick 8. Okay, that's Nick 7. So again, if you go to your plugins and go to the Nick 9 and go to preferences, when you get this box the first time, grab the preferences and you're just going to like drag it till you see that little blue box on the bar that you want to put it in. And then it will stay there, so you can just click that to open the panel each time you go in. And then you can also adjust how you're working with it, because if you remember in the last version, we also have, we can bring in masks from Photoshop to Nick now. So that will pop up when if you have a mask on an image, it will show up when you select a module. And you can also either bring in an active layer or all of the layers. Usually I want it to see all the layers when I've done something. And you can also apply favorites and last edit to Nick and right to Photoshop. So there's a couple things here you can look at. And same thing for the masking. You can either tell it to bring in all the masks or selected masks, or not to send the masks if you don't want them. So Virginia, so I'm still using Nick 6. I use it infrequently. The upgrade's really worth it. I like Nick and I use it a lot, so I think so, especially if you have 6, because they've done a lot to the program since 6. You won't get an upgrade price if you have 6. If you have 7 or 8, you can get the upgrade price. But in the blog, there is a link with a 25% discount code, but that's only for new users. So if you already have an older version, if you have a second email, set up the account under a different email and you would be a new user and you can use the coupon. So that's a little way around that. Okay, so let's move on. So I'm not going to save that. So you can see, we very quickly make selections of areas, which I really love. It just makes it much easier. And this one is just going to be a really quick, simple change. This was from our Outer Banks trip. We went out for sunrise. And it wasn't that bright on that side, but I used one of my own skies and added some more color. But I want to make the house just a little bit brighter, not super bright. But I want to bring it out just a little bit more. So we're going to go into our probably color effects. Let me flip my page here. Yeah, we're gonna go back to color effects. Arlene says, should I delete 7 and 8 or leave them? I still have my 8 just in case something happens like today, and if I can't get into 9, I can get into 8 because I do teach, camera club seminars on Nick as well. I would probably leave the 1 version older, at least for a while. But if you get 9, you could definitely take out 7. All right, so in this one, we're going to do levels and curves, which I don't always do. And we had a webinar for affiliates, and there was somebody who did a demonstration of all these new features. And this was one that he showed that I thought was pretty cool. So we're going to add a local adjustment. I'm going to select my object, and I want my house. And again, if you kind of get this to kind of finagle, it will pick up what you want. And you just got to very slowly move the cursor around sometimes. So I'm going to go with that because this down here is grass anyway. And then from here, I'm just going to move that up a little. And that's going to lighten up the front side, the brighter side of it. And then we can open up the shadows by moving that one. I might want to come back a little on that. Maybe adjust the midtones. And you can always push them a little and then come back, see what it's really doing. And I actually kind of like that because it would have more light on the front because of the sun. So that's what I want to do there. And that was all I really did to that one in here. But again, it's just a quick way to make that selection. Kelly mentions too, and that's a good point, if you have an older version of Nick that has the perspective effects and you use that a lot, keep that version. I think it was after, I want to say it was after 7, but double check because they did away with that because they have another product, DxO, that is kind of an expanded version of perspective effects. And I forget what it's called now. I gotta look. Let me look at my viewpoint. It does what perspective, but if you only use it a little bit, perspective effects was really good. So that's a good point. Thank you. I forgot about that. So that's a good tip to keep one of those versions. So Arlene, you may want to double check and see which one has it, because I don't remember off the top of my head. And because I have the other version, this other program, I think I did delete my older one. All right. What was that, dear? Okay. Okay. All right. So this one, we're going to do one more thing with the depth mask. And I wanted to add a little more color to this background. This was a foggy morning. I've done some, I've done my editing. This was a cell phone shot. I added a graduated filter, but I want to intensify this a little bit. So let's go back to our color effects. And we're going to go to graduated filters. And these all have stars because they're my favorites that I use the most or I use for classes. So it's just so I can see, what I really need and not have to go through the whole list while I'm teaching. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, I really like the way that this one came out. And I didn't really put any effects on it. It was just the way it happened to come out from the cell phone. I just added a little color to the sky. Okay. So we're going to go, we've got the graduated filter. I'm going to use blue number 3. And then I'm first going to adjust my settings. So I'm going to bring this back. I'm going to bring the diffusion up. And the diffusion, if you look, you can see how it makes that line softer. So at 0, you get a real hard line. Diffusion is going to spread that out. And then the shift controls where the blend goes. Let me bring that up a little bit. And then, but you can see now we have that filter is showing over our little shed here. And I don't want the blue over that. So we're going to add a local adjustment. And I've tried the area selection, and that really only works. You can see the red thing moving. It works for very small sections. So it's not going to select like the whole sky. We need to do the object selection for that. So we're going to select our sky. And so now our effect is only on the sky. We can go ahead and hit that M key, and you can see where that graduated filter is. And I didn't worry about in between the fence, although that I probably should remask those out because it's a little bit lighter there. I didn't think it added that much color down there. So I could also select those areas and mask those. All right. So just apply, and then we'll get out of that one. Let's close that. So I have more projects than I usually do because they're quicker to just show you these different features. So that's why I have that. So this image and the one I'm going to do after this flower, Linda will recognize this. We had a one of the come in from the cold workshops, which was supposed to be in March and got put, or in February, or end of January actually, and got postponed to March because it snowed. That was when we had the big snowstorm all around the southeast here. So anyway, this was a flower, and this is the background is being projected on a monitor behind it. So I had a bunch of the ones we got from our conference speaker last year from Jerry Jones. She gave us all these cool backgrounds. So let's go in here to, this one is under analog effects. And we're going to do one of the glass filters. What's that, dear? Yeah. So it's over here under filters. There's a couple new ones. So we're going to do the glass effect here. And it just defaults to this first one, but there are a ton of filters in here. So the basic just has these 9. And then there's analog ones, and you can see there's lots of different ones in here. And then geometric ones, which is, I tried like all of these to see what they looked like. And I liked this one, but it's a little strong. So we're going to make some adjustments to it. So I took the, yeah, I know, read my notes, right? I can't get going, and then I don't want detail instructor. I want down here. Okay, so this is where we need to be, underneath of it. The strength, I brought back just a hair. But then the smoothness, I brought back a little bit more. And the details, I went back to about 25. So it kind of broke it up a little. It wasn't quite so overpowering. And of course, like always, you can, add more or less. You can see how that the strength is, making that change. And you can also bring down the opacity if you wanted to really, if you wanted not much of a look, you could actually, about there is kind of cool. That's about 93. And we'll apply it. But there are so many cool effects in there. You really have to jump in and just try them and see, because they do all kinds of different effects. And I thought that was rather neat. And just, if you want to get creative with things and do something different, that's what all this stuff is for. So you can have fun and experiment. All right, so let's close that one. So next we're going to do this image. This was also from that day. And of course, this has some textures in the background and a brush. I also, in the class I do on creative flower editing, I had a bokeh texture over it, but I took that off because I wanted to use one of the paper textures and show you how we can now blend it. So this is also in our analog effects. And we're going to scroll down, and we're going to go to the paper textures. And like I said, these were added in the last version. So we have classic, there's vintage, and there is, and there's different ones in here. But before, you could only control like the opacity. So now I'm going to go to worn, And I'm going to use this one down here. And now I kind of like that. And I'm going to mask it off the flower. So I'm looking at how it's working on the background. If I just, I actually brought the scale of it down because it defaults to 150. And I brought that back to like 100. There. So it was like, it just fit better to the image, I thought. No, you can't add your own textures. I wish. I'm hoping maybe in the future that will be something they add, but at this point, no, it's only what is in here. So we're going to do that. And then to make it show up a little bit more, I went to color burn blending mode. So instead of it just being, I don't know, it's sort of like a grayish effect over it, by using color burn, it made those creases in the paper pick up that pink color from the background. And then we're going to go to our local adjustment, object selection, and it was actually, because it's a more consistent color, I selected the background, and because that's where I want the texture anyway, so now it's not on our flower. And there you go. And when you get the these little, they call it an antenna, when you make, because you can use this slider as well as over here. I prefer the ones over here because I just think it's easier. If you don't want to see that down here at the bottom next to the masking thing, there's a thing here that says hide antenna, and you can just turn that off and you'll only see the little control point where you clicked and not the whole thing. So there you have it. And then, from there we can adjust different opacity. Yeah, that's the opacity off of the mask. We don't want to do that. But yeah, and you can also do colorization if you wanted to change like the hue, saturation, and brightness. We can bring down, affect different things here. We could change the color, which I wouldn't want to do on this image, but you could. Sometimes you might want to do that. Or you can brighten or darken that texture as well. So let's apply that one. So I'm real thrilled that they brought in the blending modes, because that's pretty cool. Because otherwise what I would have done if I couldn't do that and I didn't want it on my flower especially, is to bring it back to Photoshop and then mask it here. So now you can do it all there in your Nick product. All right, so next let's do those funky chromatic shift. And I've seen this effect on, like I said, different, advertisements, especially like print ads or, I don't know, different things. And it's not really my favorite, and I probably won't use it all that much, but it's something else there, and it may work for a project that you're doing. So we're going to go back to our analog effects. And there's a couple of color palettes you can do with this as well. So this one is down here, chromatic shift. And what it does is create this color shift. It's like things are misaligned, like the colors in your image. It's that effect. So this one is red and cyan. We also have green, magenta, and blue and yellow. For this one, I left it the red and cyan. Woo! Combining words. And then you can control the offset. This is at like 2%. You could, do it more or less. Is that way. I went with like 3, if I can get it there. 4. It's hard to get it exact sometimes. And then I changed the angle, so it wasn't quite to the direct side. I wanted it to be a little bit more about there, a little more at an angle. And that's what that looks like. On this, I'm going to do one other image with it with a different color. But that's chromatic shift. Yeah, Kelly says the glitch effect. That is what it's typically called. There are other presets you can get out there, I know, and actions and things that will do that, and they usually are called that. So I find this one's not too bad, but some of them are like really hard on your eyes. A lot of times they do them on people, which is I find very weird. So the next one is this rose that I've done other things in Nick in the past, but we're gonna do a demo for this. And we're gonna do Chromatic. I probably should favorite some of these to make it. I don't know if you can. Can't favorite these because it's a short list. So this time I'm going to use the green and magenta. Now if the offset it to and the angle, again, I'm going to bring down some. You can see how it's moving as I move that slider. And it just, I don't know. On this one, it's not too bad. It just makes it a very, like a pop art sort of a look on here. This is probably not something I'd use a whole lot, but you never know. You might have that image, you just want to do something funky. Or as my husband says, take it into Photoshop and then invert it, because he likes to do that with a lot of his effects, and he comes up with some really wild things where you invert the whole image. Do you just do a Control-I on that layer? Let's see what that does. Ooh, that's an inverted image where it becomes almost like a negative effect. So that's really funky. Dave likes to experiment. If you follow him on Facebook, you'll see some of his wild creations. But they're fun. He does some really neat stuff. All right, so now we're going to get into that halation filter. So I'm going to use a couple concert shots to show you this. And I realized after I should have healed out that little somebody's cell phone or something down there. So we're going to go into, this is under color effects. Yes, this band is called The Machine. They cover Pink Floyd. And this was when we were in Connecticut. They were at a somewhat smaller venue. And they did the entire The Wall album. And unfortunately, this gentleman passed away a couple of years ago now. And the other lead gal of the band is the drummer, and she was fabulous. The two of them were the ones that started this band. Anyway, I like to give people background on what I do. So under halation, you can see it's already kind of made our lights a little pink. So we can control the intensity of the effect. The spread is going to, make it like wider or narrower. And I went a little bit wider on this one. And then the sensitivity is, how sensitive it is to that light. So you can see it's near the keyboard there at the bottom. It's putting more light, which I kind of like that for this image. So it just looked like it really was a pink spotlight. So that's what halation does, is it works on the bright areas of an image. And again, it's something they do in like cinematic effects. So there's the before and there's our after. So, what that? Oh yeah, Dave said I should have done it on one of the shows we went to in Branson. I didn't think about that. So the other one I'm going to do is another concert. And this one is the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. If you've never seen them, they're amazing. They're from Sweden, I believe. And they do their shows are holiday based. It's usually like a Christmas story kind of thing. And there's a whole bunch of people right now. These two are doing a solo, but you can see there's a bunch of people over here. It's a huge production. Really, really cool. So let's go back to our color effects. And go to our halation. And you can see that it's already changing our color. So I left that there. Red, I went a little bit bigger. Sensitivity down. And then you can also change the hue with the colorization. So this is the default, but I brought this one back a little bit more and made it more pink because I thought the pink and the green played well together. So we're going to apply that and I'll show you the before and after. So that's the before and that's the after. And this is also a cell phone shot because you can't take cameras into concerts anymore. No, this was the other one was. This was the Hartford, I think we went to the Coliseum. This is a big show. So anyway, that's the before and after. And then when you come in here, you can always lower your opacity a little if you want to pull back the effect. You can still do that. Sandy said, how does that work with black and white? That's a good question. Hold on, and we'll give that a try. Let me do the next project with this, and then we'll give that a shot. We'll turn something black and white and give it a try. I don't know. I hadn't even thought about trying it on black and white. So let's not do that. So then I have this other old house we found in South Carolina. And, of course, you know, I like to take my old buildings and do funky things. So we're going to apply a couple of other color effects filters, and then we're going to do halation on this. And even though it's not really what that is designed for, it actually give it a pretty neat look. So I'm going to start with, and again, when I start doing these, it's like, let's try this filter and see what I get. Monday Morning is a very dramatic filter. Almost turns it black and white, but not quite, and adds that, they call it sneer. So we're going to pull that back a little because I don't want it quite as blurry as that. And then I brought back the opacity a little bit. Because I have just a hint of the color coming through. And then I added Polaroid transfer. And this gives things like greenish glow, like the old Polaroid photos used to have. So you can add a border in here. And I went way up, kind of like that. And I was going for this like old photo kind of look. I brought the texture up. And then the smear I brought back a little as well. So that's where we're at. And this is pretty cool the way it is. But then I tried the halation. And with the, the default color, it adds that kind of pinkish orangish color. So I brought the intensity back and the spread back. And then I changed the hue to about there. So it became more blue. So it toned down that green a little bit, so I'll turn that filter off. So that was before it and after it. And I thought it took away a little of that greenish yellowish color and just made it like cooler than the other one was, like a little more warm color. And it kind of emphasized the blue. And I thought that was pretty neat. So even though it's designed, to work with the bright, like lights and things, you can always experiment with things. I always like to see, what things can do. Kelly said, anything new in Silver Effects? No, not this time. All of these functions were basically in color effects and analog effects, although you do have the new, way of selecting objects and things that's in all of the programs. But all of these new effects and filters are in these two. They did the big update to Silver Effects in the last version when they redid that. Yes, I'm going to turn something black and white and we're going to try that. So let's do the flower that we tried. Let's do a quick thing in Silver Effects because we still have some time and I only have one more project, so we're doing good on time. So we can play a little bit. So it's like nature. No, HDR effects kind of is what it is. It merges the images and that doesn't really ever change. Let's do that. So we have some color in the background. And I'm going to apply that. Oh, I should have just did the switch, but I didn't. Okay, so let's go to our color effects. And do the chromatic shift. Or was that in color effects? Oh, I haven't used them enough. No, that's in analog effects. Cancel. Sorry about that. Gotta remember where all these things are. I just started working with it. It came out like the day before we were going on vacation. So I didn't have much time to play then. And then I started working on it after we came back. So our chromatic shift. Yeah, it actually works. It just gives you the more truer blue and red or green magenta. Yeah, so let's do blue yellow, and then you can lower the saturation of it some, and you can also lower the opacity of it, so you can make it a little more subtle. So that's what you can't do Control I in here, dear. You have to wait till you get back to Photoshop. So let's apply that. Yeah, this is halation on a black and white. So it's not halation. This is color shift. Oh, can I do halation? Yeah, let's try that next. So let's do Dave's little. No, that's the negative version. Control I or Command I. All right, so let's get rid of that layer, and then let's do the halation. That was in color effects, right? Got to double check. Yep. All right. And let's see what happens here. Ooh, it added some pink there. So that's where the hue is at. So you could, if you didn't want to add color, just undo that if you just want to add, like the intensity. So let's pump it up a little. So, ooh. I've got a cat scratching my chair. Oh, please. Ginger, stop. Okay, so that's, you could pump up the color that way. So you could almost colorize a black and white with this, which is rather cool. And then you could, ooh, I like that. Of course, I like purple. Yeah, that's a good idea, Larry. So there's another way that you can use halation as well on a black and white. You can use it to like colorize the brightest parts of your image only, because this is much brighter than the background, so that's why you're not really seeing it on the background. Yeah, Dave said, could you make a selection? Yeah, you could select the background, but I don't think that would really change because it's dark and this is designed to work with light areas. So that's why it's picking up the flower, because this is too dark for it to show up. I kind of like that. And you get that little bit of like glow around it. It's pretty cool. So like I said, you got to experiment, so like pick some different kinds of photos and, take them in to the different programs and try the different stuff, because you never know what you'll come up with. I'm going to leave that one there because I might save that. Actually, I won't, because I'll go back into it. But that came out really cool. I do like that. All right, and the last new thing, we're going to talk about the color grading. So let's go in here and hang on one second. Dave just pulled a name for a free entry to our June conference. Karen Kuhn. I will send you an email and tell you how to sign up for the Zoom part of that. Okay, so Dave said if you want to know how he pulls the names, and is what we do for our conference prizes, he counted how many people were online, and he has a random number generator. It's an online thing, and picked a number and then counted down, and that person was the one who won. So you're welcome. Alrighty, so we are now going back to color effects. And we're going to go to color grading. So as I mentioned, when you do this in like Camera Raw or Lightroom, it has like 3 separate circles, one for highlights, shadows, and midtones. But now we can control, and you can see the 3 dots. That would be your highlights, your midtones, and your shadows. You can highlight one of them and it'll highlight that dot for you. And what I did here for the shadows, I went to, where did I go? Around, made this number go like to about 50. Because what I was looking to do here is pump up the color, the fall colors in here. So let's go about there. And then if you go further to the edge, it's more intense. If you come back this way, it's a lighter version of the color. So yeah, let's try that. And then my highlights. So you can just click that, or if you want to click the dot up there, move this over about here. Again, you can slide it back and forth because that's pumping up my sky a little bit. And then our midtones. Normally you wouldn't need to know what the number was, but because I'm trying to repeat it, so I've added a little bit more. I don't want to go that pink. Add a little bit more red. That was the number I had, but I'm changing my mind. We're going to go a little more to the red side and bring it back a little bit. And then on the midtones, you can also control the lightness here. And I think I did 36. And then you can control the balance. You can go cooler or warmer as well with the image. And I brought that back to about here. And then I liked the colors up here, but I didn't like it on the boat. I wanted that to stay whiter. So we're going to go to the local adjustment, object selection. We're going to click on the boat. And then we're going to invert it because right now the boat is what's selected, so that's where the effect is. So we'll come down here and invert it. So now all of our adjustments you can see are on the everything else and not the boat. And if you wanted it not on the dock, we could add another selection, and we could select the dock. And that would also take that effect off of there. Or actually, we need to invert that one too. There we go. So now it's not on that and not on that. Actually, I shouldn't have inverted that again. Take that back. All right. Let's see what we have masked here. Because now I've confused myself. All right, so we have the boat on this layer. And on this layer, you should go to the first one. There we go. Huh, both of them are the boat. How did that happen? That's weird. So, all right, I'm going to delete. Let's turn that second one off. And let's add another one. Object selection. There we go. So we have that. So now we should not have the color on there, correct? Sometimes you got to play with these things to remember what is that we want to do. It keeps wanting to select that area. I have to mess with that a little bit more because it's not Don't seem to be selecting that properly. Okay, but that's color grading. And again, you can, you could select the water if you wanted to make just, intensify the blue in the water a little bit. You can play around with all of the different sliders. If there's any other questions, feel free to type them in. Otherwise, let's just apply that. And I'll put up my last slide, just another reminder. Grab your notes, and I do have that discount. I have my link, my affiliate link, which I appreciate if you use it, if you're doing either, an upgrade or the purchase. And then new users, if you have version 7 or 8, you can upgrade. I'm sorry, if you have 7 or 8, you can upgrade. The discount code will only be for new users. So again, use a different email. And I'll put those in the email you get from Zoom and then also in the blog and the newsletter. And the code for that will expire at the end of May. Phew, we got through it. Yay! Yeah, and even got a couple minutes left. All right. Well, I thank you, everybody, for being here, as always. Vicki said she waited for this webinar before pulling the trigger on 9, and you've convinced me. Yeah, I think it definitely, I didn't think it was going to be that big an upgrade for 9 because they did so much in 8. But it really has a lot of really cool things. I think just being able to make the selections those other ways really makes it much easier to use. So I think that alone is, to me, would be worth the upgrade, plus all the other cool new features that it has. So thank you. Appreciate it again. And thank you for celebrating my 50th with me. And I'll see you again in a couple weeks for compositing with and without AI. I had some cool projects for you there. So we'll see you all soon, and have a good evening.